It's our 7th banquet, but our 8th class. The very first year of inductions, everyone was deceased. So we did not have obviously. But after tonight's induction, we will have 69 total inductees. 15 of them are legends, 8 are contributors, 8 are teams, and 38 are individuals. Understand, as audience members, that yes, I get it, sitting in our seats and listening to me and listening to the acceptance speeches may become a little tiring, particularly when you listen to me. But recognize this is these honorees' night to shine. So please be respectful. I know you will. We've never had a problem with it, but I think it's important for everyone to know that this is their night. Not our night, it's their night. A special thanks to Athletic Director Tim McCray. Tim, if you could stand, please, wherever you are, right over here. Tim is the coordinator of tonight's event and also the 2 committees that I have already introduced. The next point, all the donors we would like to thank who have financially stepped up to the plate and reserved tables to honor our inductees. Those names and businesses are displayed on the back of the program, so if you turn to the back, you can see who those people are and the businesses. Included in that group is the Tornado Club, who has always stepped up to the plate for whatever is needed, including their annual manning of the bar. This evening's event, we're sort of passing the torch. Scott McCartney and his wife are our proverbial bartenders tonight. I would like to give special recognition to Dan Worther of Dan Worther Carving, who has produced the Contributors Award, Worther Cutlery for the Legends and Individual Awards, and the Buckeye Career Center for the table centerpieces. Again, one more final reminder. Remember the centerpieces. If it's gray and it's at the inductees table, it's yours. If it's another sporting vase, it's not yours, but the flowers are. So you can take the flowers, just so we're all straight on it. Special acknowledgement, and I say this every year, but it's very sincere, must also be given to Denny Rubright, whose background work, research, and updates on the inductees are invaluable to this committee and to me especially. His work behind the scenes is thorough, detailed, and so much appreciated. And he will not come to the banquet. He's done his work, and I'm so appreciative of the work that Denny has done. As always, I want to recognize previous induction honorees who have graced us with their presence this evening. Please hold all applause until this group has been recognized. And the people I'm recognizing, please stand and remain standing, and I will point to you in the group. With us this evening, we have the following past inductees. Jim Heller, please stand. Yes, Jim. Induction class 2023, and remain standing. Ricky Surratt, 2018 class. Kate Fishley, 2021 class. Heather Laughlin, 2018 class. Colby Byram, 2022. Karen Stokey, 2023. Frank Elwood, 2018. Doug Clark, 2022. Rich Capel, 2022. Jennifer Jones, 2023. And representing the 1997-98 boys state runner-up team, Jason Barton and head coach Bob Banquet. If you please acknowledge the presence. We are also honored this evening to have 2 trustees representing the Tuscarawas County Sports Hall of Fame in attendance. Connie Evans, would you please stand? And Tom Barbizo, the president of the Tuscarawas County Sports Hall of Fame. I told you I would say this one more time. As found in the program, I politely request that we silence our cell phones at this time so we do not disturb the dignity of the evening. Could we please kill that music? As is also found in the program, the centerpiece, we've covered that. Next one. This program is being recorded and should be available by sometime tomorrow on the Dover High School website, and that site is located in the box on the first page of your program. And if you look at that first page, I'll just point it, even though you'll see it in the gray, it's right there in the middle of that. That is the site. And I'll make one final comment. Nomination forms for the 2026 induction may be found on the Dover High School website under Athletics. These nominations are to be submitted for consideration to the athletic department by February 1st, 2026 for next year's inductions. Okay, that is all the announcements. Let us begin. The Dover High School Athletic Hall of Fame Lifetime Contributors category is reserved for those special individuals, foundations, and/or corporations who have played an integral role via personal involvement, volunteering, or financial contributions. Anyone who has ever been around high school sports recognizes that support from the community is vital to sustaining successful programs. This evening's recipient is a man who has left his stamp in this community in ways that we as regular fans probably take for granted. Mr. Steve Burgess, a Tornado for his lifetime and a long-standing leader in the Tornado Club, has not only paid his dues as a member, but equally as important, as an originator and a designer. Let's take a moment and mention just a few of his behind-the-scenes contributions. For the past 17 years, he has designed and edited the award-winning fall and winter sports programs, maintaining quality and excellence in a time when printing cost has significantly increased, yet maintaining a professional publication despite the cost. It remained his priority. He has designed and handmade the signs that are reflecting the all-time Dover basketball wins and the all-time Dover football wins, displayed in the gymnasium and the football locker room. But perhaps his most significant accomplishment, though, is the Crater Stadium press box that he and 7 fellow Tornado Club members designed in 2005 and 2006, personally raising $527,000 for its construction, designing the brick columns area as well as the red seats addition. The original drawing of the press box that I referred to can be found on Steve's program biography page. It's right there on the lower left-hand corner. So if you want to check that, check that. A true tornado as an athlete, a leader, a fundraiser, and a get-her-done type of guy. This evening, I am proud to welcome my longtime friend, Steve Burgess, into the Dover Athletic Hall of Fame. Mr. Burgess.
Everybody at my table voted to just cancel the speeches, and we just stay having a good fellowship and eating all the cookies and all the punch. So we'll see you next year. A couple random thoughts came to mind just sitting here as Coach Angers. I didn't think those girls liked you that much. Yes, they did. Mr. Gunter, Mike, or Gunner, we have been friends for a long time. We all know you're a very gifted and talented writer. And I know it took all of your creative skills to make you sound good. So, thank you for the introduction. You know, gunner is a term, if you're a basketball fan, gunner means someone that shoots it all the time, right? But he must got it by his last name being shortened, right? Gunther Gunner. Because I know Charlie Huggins never allowed him to shoot. He was a pass picking, play great defense kind of guy. Seriously, Mike, I want to thank you on behalf of everyone associated with the Dover High School Hall of Fame for your role as the MC of this event for all the years that you mentioned. You had a tremendous amount of credibility to this evening and to the Hall of Fame. And I don't think you've ever done this before, but would you all join me in a round of applause for Mr. Mike Gunther? You know, when you start teaching, you start with like 30 pages. And then you get it down to 20, and then you get down to a few less, and Tony says, they don't hear you. So I got it down to a few. But thanks to the High School Hall of Fame committees, and to everyone who made growing up in Dover, Ohio seem like a TV show for me. Back in the small town era of the 60s and 70s, your neighbors and friends, teachers, summer baseball coaches, church friends, everybody. And I went back and looked at some of the previous years, and a lot of people mentioned that growing up in Dover. I think the ones that really appreciate it are the ones that grew up and left, and then they come back for to visit or whatever. And they're very happy, very proud of the fact that they grew up in Dover. Congratulations to the other inductees, as they are truly the Hall of Famers. You're in the Hall of Fame through the front door, and I'm kind of going in through the side door. Brad Hall, I get your wife and girls will laugh at this, but I guess it's okay now to tell you that you were my hero. Congrats to the Lady Tornadoes. You probably don't know, but I scouted Mossy on twice, the regional games. And that's a long way up to Bowling Green, isn't it? And you still owe me gas money if you got. Just want to introduce the people at my table, my wife's too. Evelyn Beal, Ron Beal, Ken Beal, Coach Andrus, Mrs. Andrus, and their daughter, Anissa. It was really fun seeing Ronnie and Coach, talking again. So, I don't mean talking again. Sorry. I got all that, but I talk to Coach often. And he'll say, Bert, have I ever told you this story? And I'll hear Rose in the background. Tom told him that story 10 times. Our daughter Stephanie's not here tonight. And our son-in-law Josh is working his normal 80-hour weeks, making roads up in Cleveland, if you saw any of that. Our granddaughter Macy is a sixth grader at Marlboro Elementary. And tonight has cross-country practice. And she made a competitive cheer team in Louisville. And so I've always told them that, they come first. And so I told them it was more important for them to be where they're at than to be here. Si's now an 8th grader at Marlington Middle School, and he had a STEM meeting after school. So they're about an hour away, so Steph wanted to come, but Macy called and said she was sorry that she couldn't be here. But she said Si told her there would probably be a lot of old people. Being probably boring. Our son Shane, obviously, is not here. He's up in Madison. The Badgers are getting ready to take on Iowa Saturday. He's pretty involved with that. He was happy here at Dover. He had a ring of keys that were huge, right, Kev? And now he only has one card that gets him in everywhere, but it's only one card. He seems to feel more important with all those keys than he does that with that one card. He says first one to ride and the last one to leave at Camp Randall in the Pulse Center. And Shane and Kayla are expecting a baby boy in December. Did I mention Sue's super happy about that? So I was excited about, being in the Hall of Fame, but then Doug called me and I thought, because I remember years ago, Coach Andrews was elected to the Eastern District Coaches Hall of Fame. They were down in Hilton Head, and he said, hey, can I send you my letter to read? And I said, okay. I said, man, I'm pretty honored. He's had some great players out at the Arrowhead, and I named off a couple of them, and he said, yeah, I asked them, but they were all busy. So whenever Doug told me this, I'm thinking, okay, I was 9th on the list or 10th on the list, I don't know, probably. But really, when I thought about this, who really got me to this point? One was my father. He loved sports, just loved sports. He volunteered for years with over baseball, had every job, held every chair. His name's on the plaque behind the field of runs, as a matter of fact. He thought he was proud to teach me how to throw a knuckleball and a curveball, but it's because he didn't want to catch my wild fastball. He was also a church secretary for many years, and my mom was doing what mom did back then, just making sure I was where I got to be. Mike said I never missed a practice, but I never played a minute in the 7th or 8th grade game. So every boy or girl on the team that I coached played. They all got a minute or more. So this past basketball season was great for me because Cy played in his first quarter of his first 7th grade game, and that was pretty special. Just a couple of coaches real quick. Merle Whitus was my 9th grade coach. Single-handedly changed my life at age 15. I don't know what would happen if he hadn't come along. I don't know where I'd be really. Sophomore year, our JV coach smoked Camel at halftime. Brad will laugh about that. And then Coach Andrews came my junior year. He knows how much he meant to me because I told him one night on the phone, and he was speechless for a few seconds. And Mike told me about that, and I followed that up. Bob Huggins is the other reason. When he was at Walsh, we worked for him. We worked so hard, raised so much money, and just did a crazy amount of work. I did my first program up there, media guide program. Brother Ted said it was the best one that we ever had, because it was the first one we ever had. Thanks to all the people that helped on the Crater Stadium 2005 drive. Just crazy to think of everybody that gave money and time and whatever, even bricks. I wanted to make sure everybody could have a part in that project. So at least for 35 hours you could have a brick. And there's a lot of bricks up there. And it wasn't really for $35, it was so you could have your name up there. But the reason I accepted this, I called Monty Hunter, and he gave me the 6 minutes that he didn't use on his speech. So, but finally, the reason I accepted this invitation, there will never be another chance for Sue or I to offer our heartfelt, sincere thanks for those who mentored and served as great role models for Shane. He pretty much let him do his thing, and he loved doing it, and that's what he's doing now. And that all came out of Dover High School. So, Kev, thank you. Kev, I'm sorry I didn't know Amy Grant was going to give every kid a television when she came to town that night. Charles Castercombe, Tiff Vogel, Steve Bender, Mike Dunter, Bobby Monfino, and Coach If. Coach If and I sat one night up there, one hot summer night, and he said, you got to leave a legacy. And I don't really ever thought about that. And that was part of my drive too. Someday somebody may say, that's a pretty cool looking dress box or whatever, and hopefully they'll think that I have a little part in that. So, thanks again. We'll go over. grouchy. I've been off painkillers for a week because I got back surgery next week. So I knew if I was on painkillers, I'd really get out in the weeds and talk about all kinds of stuff.
Some of us are a little grouchy just because we got out of bed in the morning. So let's be thankful for everything, that's for sure. Our second group, led by head coach Terry Emmel and assisted by Diana Smith and Jim Morris, the underdog 1997-98 girls basketball team achieved a status never before achieved by any Dover girls basketball team before or after them, as they brought home the Division III state runner-up trophy. A group of quality young ladies, this team overcame many obstacles on their journey, beginning with the reality that they had only one starter returning from the 22-2 varsity season the previous year. It was hoped to be a successful season, but making it to the state championship game was more of a dream than a true goal. Along the way, however, they gradually discovered that their winning experiences as junior varsity players was carrying over to winning as varsity players, with Hall of Famer Kate Fishley averaging over 16 points per game, and Jessie Reese emerging as an excellent rebounder. The team chemistry began to gel, with contributions coming from a variety of girls, whether it be scoring, rebounding, playing defense, or making free throws at crucial times. Along with that chemistry came a confidence that just grew and grew as the season progressed. I had most all these girls in my English classes, so it was obvious to me that these young ladies were extremely competitive, and might I add, feisty. Seeing the glare from a determined Jen Manella, which I did on more than one occasion, the goal-oriented drive and intelligence of Erin Bond and Annie Yoder, the deceptive quietness of Christy Liggett, and the overall hustle and always thinking mentality of Brianna Du Bois, to name a few. And joining them with Kate and Jessie was a perfect formula for success, putting this entire team, including Rosie Riddle, Shannon Dooling, Felista Mills, Jess Lauber, and Kristen Hall, under the guidance of a steady hand and a somewhat laid-back coach, like Terry Emmel, was the perfect combination. This group had morphed into believers that they were ready for the tourney trail. By defeating the defending State 3 state champion Wasion, thank you, Steve, and the defending Division II state runner-up Vincent Warren, the Tornadoes found themselves playing for state championship. Despite their loss in that game, their mark on our community had been made. For all their accomplishments and the glory that they brought to our community, we are honored to welcome the 1997-98 Dover Girls Basketball State Runner-Up team into the Dover High School Athletic Hall of Fame. Round of applause at this time. Please come forward, players and coaches, as I announce your name. And please hold the applause until all have been introduced. Not able to attend this evening, Kristen Hall, Jess Lauber, and Rosie Ritter, as well as Coach Diana Smith, assistant coach. In alphabetical order, Erin Bond, Brianna Du Bois, Shannon Dooling, Kate Fishley, Christy Leggett, Jen Manella, Felista Mills, Jessie Reese, and Annie Yoder. Assistant coaches, Jim Morris, and as indicated, Diana Smith, is not with us this evening, and especially reserve head coach Terry Himmel.
I'm not going to stand up there by myself. So one correction, Mike, it was Division II. Back then, there were only 4 divisions, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now there's many more. Just when I hear those victories, I kind of get chills again as far as kind of remembering the games and how they went and so on. I too like to thank the Hall of Fame committee, Mike, Gunther, and McCrae to do a lot of volunteering. Like I said, the committees, and especially my school. There were schools where I taught 35 years, and what's really important to me is, how they kind of prioritize education, the arts, the music, sports, everything all together. We're not just a sports school. We're just fortunate to have a lot of good athletes, and I do appreciate my school. So, also I'd like to thank the families of all these players, and my family, because over the years I coached, 4 or 5 years junior high boys for Tom. I coached with Tom Armstrong 3 years, girls basketball 25 years altogether, and I also was head golf coach for 21 years. So, being a coach, your family has got to be part of that. My daughter Kim, who teaches at Dover, son-in-law Bill, you hear him on the radio all the time, Bill Hammerstrom. My son John, and his wife Christy, and of course my wife Debbie. But back in the day, if you had to, if you coached your family, or especially your wife, I remember, and Rose, you can remember this too, you not only had to be the coach's wife, go to all the games, you had to run the concession stand, you had to keep the stats, you had to run, keep the scorebook, all that kind of stuff. So girls basketball kind of grew as time went on. So I thank them for all of that. And so, I know my kids coming up were like ball boy, ball girls. I kind of kid about my son John. A lot of the games he would go into the bleachers, get coached for people, and they would give him money. So he spent a lot of time at the gym. He actually probably made more money than I did coaching. And so I think that's how I get to be so frugal. But my big question is, how did all this happen? And I don't really know. I mean, I've got some thoughts, but I had 2 great coaches. Diana's not here. Diana and I had coached together for 4 years prior. She brought her experience as a college player. She just knew a lot about the women's game. I brought Jim on. Where's he at? Hiding down there. If you know Jim Morris, I needed somebody opposite myself. So I needed a motivator, somebody that was animated, somebody that was, really, got the team kind of cranked up. Because like I don't know if Steve said or Mike said or whoever said it, I'm more kind of even keel. And actually I had one player whose father, I'm not going to mention names, told me that I needed to yell at her more. And, but I learned a long time ago that you better be yourself if you're going to coach and be successful. Also Steve, Steve coached with us quite a few years over the year, different roles. He was kind of the main scout of this year. I guess I owe you money. Bill. Okay. So early on, Steve said, let's put the stats. This is a long time ago. Let's put the stats on a computer, and he came up with a program, and we lived close to each other. So I went over to his house, and he kind of showed me, all the different things. And I said, all these games, why do you have them? 27 slots there to put games. I don't know if you remember this or not. He goes, that's what it takes to win the state championship. I just looked at him, shook my head, and went on. But we didn't win it, but we didn't need the slots. So you don't really compete at this level without great athletes. These kids that you see right here did not really kids. Sorry, that's my mind. They're still kids. But they didn't really specialize in one sport. I'm not going to have them raise their hand, but I would venture to say, if I said basketball was your main sport, I might get 1 or 2. Okay, it was not. They played volleyball, they ran track, they played softball, and I know, Tom, over the years, we got a lot of good athletes. They weren't all basketball players, but you helped, and we all helped make them into a good team. And so that, it doesn't happen that way as much today. So how did this happen? Well, the Dover program, and I don't want to slice the whole program, because when Tom came on, we started winning league championships, different leagues we were in. We began winning district berths, which was new. Made it to the district. For Patina, weren't you on one of those teams? I think so. Then that kind of came along. We started making it to the regional, making it regional finals, and this goes for all of us, all coaches, all players that are part of the program. Tom Andrews or Tom Andrews mentored coaches, teams made the regionals 9 different times. And there has not been one since, one of his coaches quit coaching. So that kind of says something about the era, says something about, hopefully what we did. So how did this happen with all these 7 seniors graduating and a Hall of Fame coach retiring? What idiot would want that job? But there's a few of us out there. But this team, expectations weren't as high. I think the pressure, we did have pressure to maintain the winning theme and keep Dover girls basketball going. We had backup players who were smart and athletic. They could run the other team's plays with very little teaching. And Coach Jim jumped in there and played quite a bit with them and made them a good team. My top 8 or 9 players had different strengths. We had great leadership skills, like Mike mentioned. They didn't really care about personal success. I don't remember anybody, well, I'm not getting enough points, I'm not getting enough this or that. I remember none of that. So either I'm getting old and I've forgotten, or that, but I think that's just the way they were. Plus, we had an all-state player. I mean, that helped too. But I didn't really realize until years later that how good of athletes they were and what they accomplished. I get amazed, the more I think about it. Once in a while, I get the old days, watch the game. So, kind of sum it up here a little bit. I think the answer to how did this happen is that we had a lot of prehistory success in the girls program. We had kids who weren't afraid. They were not afraid of the big moment. And we had a little bit of luck. So we thank you for this honor. And I know a couple of girls, or somebody wants to speak.
Wants to?
Not much.
I know I'm so old, sorry. All right, so thank you to Mr. Gunther, to Mr. McCrate, and to the Hall of Fame committees. A few years ago, Jen Piper reached out to me when her softball team was heading into a regional final game. She was looking for some ideas for a motivational pregame message for her team. And she asked me what motivated this team to play well. She asked, was it the will to do something historic? Did you just want to be the best team ever at Dover? And I thought about those things, but I realized what it came down to for me was that I just didn't want it to end. I didn't want to stop the fun bus rides, the time in the locker room, the team lunches, and all the fun that I had with the team. I didn't want to lose my safe space. So my push to keep winning was to keep being with these humans. I know it's not cool to say that one of the best memories that I have is from something that happened in high school, but that's very true for me, and I'm really grateful to everyone who's a part of this team.
So when I reflect on this time, I just keep thinking, and you guys all said it, no one expected this, any of this. There were so many great teams that came before us. Like, my heroes are sitting at that table over there. 44 years old, and I'm still excited to see another one. So there were so many great teams that it would be difficult to imagine us going anywhere, much less the state finals. So when it came to playoff time, we never got the message that we weren't supposed to be this good. Having Kate on the team always made us viable, and certainly we all remember her draining those free throws at the end of the Wasion game. I get chills thinking about that. But it was how the 12 of us came together that made us special. And when Kate talks about the bus rides and even the locker rooms so tastefully decorated by Deb Manella and crew, it really was our safe little space where we could always be the team that we knew we were. We were goofy and a little angsty and quietly fierce. Well, at least Liggett was anyway. Teams are made in those spaces so they can shine on the court. And as anyone who has participated in team sports can tell you, big moments are often the culmination of so many small and seemingly tedious moments. Running Yukon for the 90th time, sprint drills, fake a pass to make a pass. Every single moment we spent together allowed us to show up in those games. And while among the team there were people who contributed more on the court, I would be remiss to say, if I didn't say, that spending most of my time on the bench was valuable. Being a part of any team requires that you fill in your role when called. And so for those of us that were less on the stat sheets and more on the sideline willing our teammates on, don't forget what we contributed.
And I want to send a special thank you to our trainers, Julie Smith and Charles Castercombe, assistant and JV coaches Smith, Morris, and Burgess, and our biggest hype man, John DeVore. Thank you especially to Coach Immel, who allowed us all to be ourselves. He was masterful in guiding a group of kids who weren't the best basketball players, who weren't the most passionate about the game of basketball, but who played for each other, and who ended up being the second best team in Division II in the state of Ohio in, as my kids would say, the 1900s.
Very well done. Very well done. Thank you. One of my favorite parts of being the master of ceremonies for this event is when I have the distinction of presenting a legend for induction into our Athletic Hall of Fame. This Legends category is designed to ensure that individuals and teams from way back who have left their mark on our school and community are not forgotten. 88 years ago, a gentleman by the name of Donald Everidge graduated from Dover High School, leaving behind an athletic career that is being commemorated this evening. Don was a stellar athlete, excelling in both football and basketball. The one consistency that followed him was success. Playing basketball in high school, his teams won 57 games, and he was the team's leading scorer. While at Muskingum College, he was a two-time Ohio Conference basketball selection, while also quarterbacking the football team and playing right field for the baseball team. After graduating from college, his distinguished teaching and coaching career began, and that is where his biggest impact was made. serving at various times as an assistant coach and as a head coach at both Canton-Timken and Canton-McKinley High Schools for 35 years. Early in his career, Don led McKinley to the state tournament. Later in his career, 1975, the Bulldogs won 23 straight games and finished the season being ranked #1 in the Associated Press poll before losing to the eventual state champion Barberton Magics in the regional tournament final. For his outstanding coaching job, he was awarded the AAA Ohio Coach of the Year. Accolades for Don were plenty, but perhaps one of the most meaningful ones was a quote from a friend. I never heard him say a derogatory word about a kid. He learned early in life to work hard, and he had honesty, integrity, and high moral standards. What greater compliments could a true teacher and coach ever desire? Yes, Donald Everett was one of us, raised in Dover, Ohio, a good man, a winner, and a true class act. It is our pleasure to welcome Donald Everett, class of 1937, to the Dover High School Athletic Hall of Fame, and accepting on behalf of the late Mr. Everett is his daughter, Mary Beth Glassburn, and maybe her husband, Bob.
My father earned many awards and had many accomplishments during his days as an athlete, coach, teacher. Being inducted into the Dover High School Athletic Hall of Fame would certainly be an award he would be most proud of receiving. I wish to thank the selection committee for honoring my father. Thank you very much.
When my wife and I moved to Canton in 1970, we spent most Sunday nights at the Everett House having dinner. Betsy and my wife would be fixing dinner, and Don and I would be talking X's and O's. And I learned so much from my father-in-law. I think I patterned myself after him. In fact, 3 years after we got to Canton, I got my first head coaching job in basketball. And 2 years after that, I got the head job at Glen Oak. And somebody there had the wise idea that maybe Glen Oak ought to play McKinley, since McKinley's head coach was my father-in-law. Well, it was not a real good idea for me, because he apparently didn't teach me everything I should have known, because he handled me pretty good twice. But the next year, I got McKinley by 27 points. But he wasn't the coach then. He had moved to Timken. And thank God I didn't have to play him that year, because they were the #1 team in the state. My father-in-law used to introduce me as his favorite son-in-law. I was his only son-in-law. And I used to talk to him about being my favorite father-in-law, and he really was my favorite father-in-law. Thank you, the selection committee, for this fabulous honor. And Don Everett was forever a fantastic man. And for you, should have had the chance to meet him, because there was no one quite like him. Thank you.
Well, when Mary Beth was speaking, I got goose pimples. I don't know about you, but like I said, that's my favorite part of the evening, is when legends are introduced. We are pleased this evening to welcome Coach Tom Andrews, a 2024 Hall of Fame inductee who was unable to attend last year because of health issues. But now that he is recovered, we want to welcome him in person so we may respectfully honor him with an abbreviated tribute. After graduating from Garraway High School and Ohio University, he started his professional career at Lancaster High School before returning to his alma mater as a math teacher and a highly successful boys basketball coach, achieving a 131-44 record before arriving at Dover as the head boys coach. After 4 years in that position, he later became the girls coach, launching a career that stamped his legacy as the most successful girls coach in our school's history. In the 1990s, the Lady Tornadoes were consistently ranked in the Associated Press top 10 poll, and in one 5-year stretch, they were 107-15. And many of those members are here, as you will hear before long, because I know they're going to erupt at certain point. This success was roundly respected by his peers as he was named Ohio's Division II Coach of the Year twice. And in 1998, Tom was inducted into the Ohio High School Basketball Coaches Hall of Fame. As a teacher, he reflected the same drive he did as a coach, demanding that his students prioritize their effort to succeed in his math classroom. That is his larger legacy. He was a true leader of young people, far beyond the gymnasium. A fierce competitor, Tom has always been a man of principle, class, and respect, leaving an unforgettable mark in Dover's rich athletic history. Yes, his accomplishments are many, but the example he set for so many young people and fellow coaches cements his status in our community. This evening, I am privileged to welcome face-to-face coach and teacher Tom Andrews into the Dover Athletic Hall of Fame. Coach Andrews.
Thank you, Mike. It's good to be seen and see you again. Thanks to the committee, thanks to Tim McCrate, Dover Schools. I was only in 3 school systems, Lancaster, Garraway, Dover Schools. I am proud to say that my family was raised in Dover, and they've been very successful, and a lot of it goes to Dover Schools. And it is good to be back. Good to have a great group down there that came to see me. They are a big reason why I'm up here. And thank you again for this great honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. We're glad you're here. A guy who won 406 football games, been honored by at least 8 Halls of Fame for various awards, won state championships, and is recognized as one of the greatest and winningest high school coaches in the United States, is here with us this evening, being honored by his hometown for a long overdue award, acknowledging that he is one of the most notable athletic figures to ever come out of our community. Let's talk about Jim Render. But first, let's give credit to Pam Render, a Carrollton, Ohio girl who married Jim in his first head coaching job. She was with him for all 49 years of his high school coaching career. So perhaps it is only appropriate that she too should at least get a longevity award for staying married to a coach despite the roller coaster ride she was on. Pam, we commend you. Please stand. Please stand. As for Jim, I have described him as a man among men, a coach among coaches, the most highly acclaimed high school coach to ever have his roots in Dover. Raised on Dover Avenue And having graduated 65 years ago, Jim was an outstanding quarterback, leading Dover to an 8-1-1 record, capped by a 36-0 victory over New Philadelphia. Hate when that happens. Thanks, Jim. Fulfilling a dream, his college football years were highly successful, culminating in 2 small college national championships while playing at Wittenberg University. A backup quarterback, Jim also excelled as a place kicker, and as a junior, he finished second in the nation for points scored by a kicker. However, his true claim to fame came on the sidelines as he led his teams at Carrollton, Uniontown, and Upper St. Clair High Schools to 406 victories, 2 state titles, 2 state runners-up, 38 playoff appearances, 23 conference titles, and 5 Western Pennsylvania interscholastic athletic titles. His Hall of Fame inductions are numerous and are listed in the program. And I encourage all of you to read all the background information on each of these individuals. This is just a small snapshot. But most familiar in this area, in 2022, he was inducted into the inaugural class of the Tuscarawas County Sports Hall of Fame. It is my honor this evening to welcome an extremely deserving man, Jim Render, back to his hometown, and most importantly, to the Dover High School Athletic Hall of Fame. Jim Render.
Oh, man, you went a little overboard, I think. It's very good to be back in Dover, Ohio. I think about Dover a lot. And I hope you people realize what you have here and what we used to have. Isler's peanut clusters. Larry D'Onofrio's pizza. And Mooney Werther's museum. All within a mile of one another. And they're the greatest. I'll be at Islands tomorrow. It was very nice of you to introduce Pam. Somebody once told me that a good coach must have a faithful wife, a loyal dog, and a great quarterback. Not necessarily in that order. So, I'm not going to say what order I got, but it was nice for Pam. Pam's a character, by the way. We won a state championship in 1989 in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and I went back to the room, for our night's sleep. And I said to Pam, how many great coaches do you think there are in this country? Pam said, I'm not sure, probably one less than what you think there In 2006, we won another state championship. I'm not too smart, so I thought, well, I'll try again. I said, Pam, in your wildest dreams, did you think I'd win another state championship? She says, Jim, you're not in my wildest dreams. So, we've had a great ride together. She's still here. I got to take a couple seconds here to introduce my sister. My sister and I have a record, or records that will never be broken. You know how long she's played the organ at St. John's? You know how long? You have any idea, Rex?
About 7 years.
7. Not 78, 70. So if you take her, he's a colonel too. I mean, you can't. Anyhow, the years I spent coaching and the years she spent at her craft, you combine that's 37 years or whatever. And I don't know, I probably shouldn't go here, but does Dover have an arts hall of fame, or a music hall of fame, or an academic hall of fame? The reason I bring that up, the school I was at for all those years, Upper St. Clair, we have an academic, an arts, and athletic. But I think she deserves to be in the Arts Hall of Fame if Dover ever starts one. So I want to take a quick moment to tell you why coaches get inducted. We get inducted for two reasons. We had great players and we had great mentors. And I'd like to talk about my mentors for a second. I've had 10 mentors that in their own right are in Hall of Fame. And some of these people, I know you guys will remember, but my uncle Ike Truby was on the 1927 Dover basketball team, state champion. And he was a football coach. And he coached, some of you will remember Vic Janowitz that won the Heisman Trophy. My uncle was his coach, but he was a mentor to me. He's the one that taught me how to kick. And then I get into my freshman year in high school, and I'm coached by Harold Ramsey and Tom Armstrong. Harold Ramsey was in the Physical Education Hall of Fame. Coach Armstrong's in the Ohio High School Football Coaches Hall of Fame. My sophomore year, they brought in a guy that's sitting right back here that I'm just thrilled is here. Frank Owen is in this Hall of Fame. And he was the quarterback at Ohio State, and he was one of my heroes when I was a little younger. But Frank's a Hall of Famer that coached me. And then, lo and behold, some of you talked about Dick Haynes a little while ago. Dick Haynes is in the Ohio Hall of Fame. He's in the Southern California Hall of Fame. So I had 5 Hall of Fame people influencing me before I ever got a good start. And then I went to Northwestern. I was recruited to go to Northwestern. And my coach there was Eric Parsegian, who all of you will remember at Notre Dame. And then I transferred to Whitmer, and both the quarterback coach and the head coach are now in the National Collegiate Football Hall of Fame. The head coach was Bill Edwards, and he coached with my uncle Ike at Vanderbilt. And Bill Belichick was born. His dad, Steve, was on that staff. Bill was born in 1950 in Nashville. It was named after my coach, Bill Edwards. So then the guy that recruited me to go to Northwestern, I later worked for him at East Liverpool. His name's Bob McNay, and he's in the Ohio Football Coaches Hall of Fame. And then I did my graduate assistantship at West Virginia University, and my job was to run the scout team defense against the offensive coordinator, who was not real heavily known at that time. But you all will remember Bobby Bowden, who had all that success at Florida State. So I just named 10 people that are Hall of Famers that greatly influenced me. And some of you had
dealings with Tom Patton, who some of us in Dover are trying to get into the YMCA Hall of Fame. If Tom Patton's not in the YMCA Hall of Fame, I don't know why they have it. And of course, the guy that made me a quarterback when I was in the 7th grade was our 7th grade coach. That's George Alford. And so now I've named 12 pretty elite people that had a lot to do with any success I had. The other thing that a coach must have is great players. And I've had some great players. I have a kid in Charlton, Ohio that still makes part of his living. He was a great football player. He's mad at Woody because Woody didn't recruit him to be a fullback at Ohio State, but he went to Baldwin Wallace, and his quarterback, he was a fullback, his quarterback was Jim Tressel. And he makes his living, part of his living, imitating Elvis Presley. And he's good. Some of you may have seen him. Then I went to Uniontown, Pennsylvania, and I had a couple of great players. One of which, his name was Kevin McLeay. He was a running back for the University of Georgia, and he was the first African-American young man to be a captain in the Southeastern Conference. And then I went to Upper St. Clair, and man, I had a lot of them. But the guy that people know, his name is Sean Lee. Sean was a 2-time captain for me. He was a 2-time captain at Penn State, and he was a captain for the Dallas Cowboys. That's why people like me get inducted into the Hall of Fame, because of people like that. I spent some time with Sean recently. We went to Ireland to see the Pittsburgh Steelers play, and Sean and I sat there and argued. I shouldn't tell you this, but we sat there and argued about Donald Trump. So I did see some of the game. You're getting closer. Are you telling me to sit down? Settle in. I watched it. Thank you to the committee. Believe me, it's quite an honor to be recognized by the people you grew up with and people you have admired for a long time. My thank you and thanks to all the committee. It's been a great pleasure being back here. Thank you.
The best way to describe Steve Maston is that he is a good man who has accomplished so much throughout his life. From being an outstanding athlete in both high school and college, to becoming an extremely successful businessman, volunteer, and philanthropist, to even making the right decision and marrying a girl from my hometown of Janayton, Becky. He has lived his life to serve others and to make our community a quality place to live. His Dover football success enabled him to receive a scholarship to Indiana University, where he continued that career. At Dover, he led a defensive unit that allowed just 26 points in 10 games, contributing to a 9-1 season, was an excellent receiver, was named an Associated Press and United Press International All-Ohio, achieved special mention status on the Coaches Prep All-American football team, and was a starting receiver in the Ohio North-South All-Star game. As a basketball player, he averaged 18 points as well as 9 rebounds per game and was a 3-year pitcher on the baseball team. At Indiana, he earned all Big Ten honors as a junior. Quite an impressive athletic resume. Building upon his athletic success, Steve ultimately returned to Dover, where he embedded himself in the community and soon was recognized as an involved leader, one who could be depended upon and trusted. He demonstrated by his 28-year tenure on the Dover City Schools Board of Education, his 8-year run on the First Moravian Church's Board of Elders, his current role as the chair of the Dover New Philadelphia Food Pantry, and numerous other voluntary services. Steve and his wife Becky's ownership of the Wendy's franchises cemented their leadership in this community and throughout Tuscarawas County. The bottom line is simple. Steve's focus, determination, and work ethic that were planted through his sports involvement are key ingredients that have enabled him to become the ultimate team player in more ways than just athletics. For all those reasons, it is with great pride that I welcome Steve Maston as a 2025 inductee into the Dover Athletic Hall of Fame. Mr. Maston.
Thank you very much. For most of my life, sports was it. I grew up that way until I became 18 and went to college and played Big Ten football. And then when I graduated from college, I realized it's more than just sports. But what do sports teach you? They teach you how to overcome disappointment because you're going to get your butt kicked and you're not going to start, or you're not going to play, or this guy's not that good, or all that stuff. Deal with it, right? Got bad news. Get used to it. Wait a minute. These guys are all better than I am. I show up as a freshman in Indiana. I was a midget. I was only 185 pounds at that point. And it's like, oh my gosh. By the time I started as a junior, I was 225. You know why? I wasn't playing other sports, and I was in the weight room, and I decided this was important. And all the wisdom I got from Jim Rinder. Jim used to be my next door neighbor. and we were always trying to get him to come over to our house to play in the backyard, but he was too much, he really wasn't quite a bit older than us, like he is now. But I don't know where that came from, sorry. Jim was always a great guy, he always treated us right, and we were, the age gap was there, but I felt like we were buddies, and they moved out, it was a sad day. But I'll tell you one thing, one of the greatest things that could ever happen to anybody is to grow up and live in Dover, Ohio. There's so many good things about being a Doverite that I could sit here for 2 or 3 hours and go over that. I won't do that now. First of all, you know how to get help. You know there's plenty of help. The teachers are great, the coaches are great, neighbors. It's just easy to live here. And even after I moved, we went away to school, and I was living up in Indianapolis, and I was living in Columbus and in Zanesville, and finally came back to Dover. It hasn't changed. It's easy to live here because people like you, people want to help you. I got a lot of friends here. I just, oh my gosh, I come in this room, it's like, oh yeah. Wow, and you live in Indianapolis, you can't do that because you don't know anybody except who you work with. And you live in Columbus, you don't know anybody. You know your next door neighbor and the people you work with, and that's it. You come in this room, there are 100 people here I know. And that's a comforting thing because we need that. God gave that to us. We have special rights and privileges because we run this planet. And God gave us that as well. And so we should be all thankful for that and be very appreciative of the fact that just like this gathering here tonight, wow, what a deal that we have. And think about all the people that are struggling to have food, can't find a job, blah, 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 all that stuff. We have all that stuff here in abundance. I can't tell you how much I appreciate being able to be recognized. Sports used to be my life exclusively until I was 25, and I finally woke up and realized I better do something else. But it was fun playing college football. Everybody and their brother told me I can't go to the Big Ten because I'm not big enough. And I'm not kidding you. Every time I turn around, you can't go do that. You need to go to Muskingum or something. I said, they're giving me a full ride scholarship to go over there and play against Ohio State and Michigan State. And guess what? I did play against Ohio State and those guys. Rich Capel played at Ohio State. He was a senior, I was a sophomore. We played against him. That was kind of cool, actually. But the point being, I did play Big Ten sports. I was an all-conference selection. And so what's the big deal about that? The big deal is you have to learn, as you all know, how to do what you need to get done. A lot of disappointment in this world. You have to overcome that, and you all know that. And I had to learn that, and the best way I learned it was through sports, because you didn't always get the starting nod, you didn't always get the call. You know, we had a tremendous football program when I was here. We couldn't win a basketball game to save our lives. Go look at the Squirrel. I think my senior year we won 6 games. We just weren't that good. But the deal was we didn't have the proper leadership. And the best thing I thought about Dover was we had a lot of coaches that were really good, and the football program was on top of that with Dick Haynes. But even after that, the programs got better and better. We have great girls basketball, we got great boys basketball, great football. And is this about sports? No, this is about kids learning to overcome and to achieve and to go out and be a success in his life. And you learn a lot about that with sports, and that was a big benefit to me. Now I'm here tonight, I'm an old man. I am an old man, right, Colby? See that finger? That was Colby. He was the running back, and I was the sophomore defensive end, and I'm lunging at him. He just cut the arm down and went down. My finger was like this. And it never did, but it's a reminder of how football can be good, and of course it can get you. But I can't tell you how much I appreciated the opportunity to get a great education at Dover and learn to play, because I played football. I didn't go home after school until after Memorial Day. When Friday night football game was over, Monday night was first basketball practice. When Friday night was our last basketball game, Monday night was the first baseball practice. And that was my whole life. But it taught me to persevere, overcome, and more importantly, to treat people right. Be thankful for your teammates, and let them know that you're thankful. And go out and do something for them every once in a while. One of the biggest things that happened to me is I became a believer. I didn't go to church when I was in school, or when I was at home, and even in college. And then one day I woke up and it says, "Hey, Steve," I got called. And so I started going to church when I was 35, and by the time I was 40, I was a believer. And I'm very thankful for that, because one of the greatest things that ever happened to me or could happen to anybody. And the point was, that's also a team. And I've just been a team guy my whole life. And so my family is partially here, and my grandson, and my daughter, and my wife, and those guys aren't my family. John Hurst is a classmate of mine. I've known the guy since I was 9, so and there's Smitty up there, so those are my good friends. And you are all my friends, because the beautiful thing about living in Dover is we have lots of friends here, don't we? And we look around this room and you go, yeah, oh my gosh. Go move to Indianapolis sometime. You know the person who lives next to you, and you know the person you work next to at the job. And they're the only people you know. You come here, it's hundreds and hundreds. So thank you very much for any recognition you gave me. It's a privilege to serve. I ran the Wendy's business in town, sold it to my daughter, she's here. But in all that, I learned to get on the school board and help other people. I was on a school board for 28 years. We built a new high school while I was there. And that was my initiative, I have to say. I'm not bragging about it, I'm just claiming that because it's something I thought, this is baloney. Why are our kids going, there's no air conditioning, there's no natural light, this is not a good learning environment. Let's fix that. It only took us 11 years to get that done, but what I learned in sports was don't quit. So I persevered, and now we have a new high school. And so, what can you do? How can you help? My life today is really about, I've been thinking about this 24/7. Who can I help today? What can I do about somebody? How can I, I'm thinking about this guy in my Bible study. I'm thinking about this guy in his golf swing. I'm thinking, whatever it is, but how can I go help somebody else? You'd be amazed how much better your life will seem because God takes care of you. Your job is to go take care of others. And that's the gospel according to Matthew. Anyhow, thank you very much, and I appreciate the honor. I got some goodies out of that.
So if you're going to help us with our golf swing, we'll line up because I think there's probably more than one.
Thank you very much.
A welcome addition to tonight's induction ceremony is Brad Hall, a 1975 graduate who remains the boys' basketball fourth leading scorer with 1,013 points in the school's history. Playing for head coach Tom Connor, Brad was instrumental in leading the Tornadoes to impressive seasons during his junior and senior seasons. As a junior, he earned All-Ohio Special Mention by averaging 15 points per game, and the Tornadoes were 17-6, including tournament games, one of the best seasons Dover had earned in several seasons. As a result, his team advanced to the first regional tournament since 1950. His senior season was even more impressive, averaging 19 points per game, again leading his team to its best regular season since 1952 with a 14-4 record. For his so important leadership in individual and team success, he was named an honorable mention All-Ohio to conclude his high school career as a two-time All-Ohio. His next stop was the Franciscan University in Steubenville, where he was a 4-year letter winner and repeated his high school success by scoring over 1,000 points at the collegiate level. One additional individual accolade was his winning the Times Reporters one-on-one tournament in 1975. For those of us here tonight who remember that competition, that tournament was truly a bragging rights victory, because each school in the Times Reporters subscription area provided only one participant. If you won, so did your school. Following his collegiate graduation with a bachelor's degree in accounting, he began his professional career working with the Ohio Auditor Examiner's Office. Following that beginning, he later earned his master's degree in school finance, leading him to serve as the Heath City School District's treasurer for 22 years, before retiring in 2017. He and his wife, Kim, reside in Newark, Ohio, and are the parents of 4 adult children and grandparents to 7. On this night, 50 years after his high school graduation, we are excited to welcome Brad Hall into the Dover High School Athletic Hall of Fame. Mr. Hall.
I'm not good at memorizing stuff, so I gotta read it. I just want to begin by saying how incredibly honored I am to be standing here tonight as an inductee into the Dover High School Hall of Fame. To be recognized in this way by the school and community that shaped me is something I'll never take for granted. Dover High gave me the platform to dream, to compete, and to grow. And I want to thank the Hall of Fame Committee for this incredible honor. I'd also like to thank Frank Alicia for nominating me to get me in there. I really appreciate that, Frank. To be included amongst the greats who wore the crimson and gray, to the athletes I've looked up to, and to the teammates I battled alongside, and to the coaches who poured everything into us, means the world to me. I'd like to do some thank yous. My coaches, Tom Connor and Bill Presley, which are no longer here with us. Thank you for pushing me beyond what I thought was possible. You didn't teach us how to win games, but you taught us how to work hard, how to lead, and how to carry ourselves with pride. My teammates, they were all like family. We celebrated wins, suffered losses, and went through every growing practice together. Every success I had was because of people around me who believed in each other and who trusted each other and who left it all out on the floor. My family, I'd like to thank my parents who are not with us, but they were always supporting me, endless sacrifices in me, and even believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And I'd like to thank my family that's here tonight. I was want to tell a story, but I can't. Not good. So, tonight's not about basketball. To me, it's about memories, legacy, and gratitude. So thank you for this honor and the support for being part of this journey. Go Tornadoes.
For a guy who said he was scared to get up here and speak, I think he did a pretty good job. I'll tell you that right now. This past season, as we all know, Dover girls softball won its first state championship, bringing this community to its feet in celebration, as it richly deserved. Oftentimes lost in that excitement, however, is the history that contributed to that championship. A quick recap. In 1985, 40 years ago, Dover fielded its first softball team under the guidance of Coach Doug Willoughby. But this happened only after a petition drive and numerous other roadblocks were preventing its inception. In short, let's remember that initiating any girls' sport was not a given. Instead, it was a challenge. But we are certainly glad today that Coach Willoughby and others accepted that challenge. Well, Dover softball's first true star was the lady being inducted this evening, Patina Stafford Warner, a 1991 graduate. To acknowledge her credibility, please listen to a few stats. A career record of 55-9, 22-3 as a senior. She established records for pitching 9 no-hitters, 14 one-hitters, and notching 612 strikeouts. Accolades were plenty, including First Team Eastern District and Northeastern Buckeye Conference twice, as well as Player of the Year as a senior. As a 4-year letter winner, she was the first Dover player named All-Ohio in softball, as well as the first female athlete in school history named First Team All-Ohio twice. An interesting side note is that her coach at that time made her warm up pregame, along with her catcher, Erica King, as close to the opponents as possible while they were having infield practice. Soon, others noted how intimidating that was, earning her a nickname of the Intimidator. True to her calling, however, Patina was an extremely humble competitor, choosing to pass on her respect for her teammates over her own successes. In one particular Times Reporter article, she was quoted as saying, "Defense is the strength of this team. It's really the key to our success. Shelley Corbin, Tammy Randolph, Tanya Bobetsky, and Erica King have been outstanding." That was Patina's character. Her next stop was Miami of Ohio, where she was a 4-year letter winner, team captain, and academic All-American, starting 67 games, recording 145 strikeouts, and an earned run average of 3.19. Compiling an outstanding academic and athletic career, one of the earliest pioneers in Dover girls softball history, and one of its absolute best pitchers. The doors are open this evening for Patina Stafford Warner to enter the Dover Athletic Hall of Fame. Patina.
I don't know who he was talking about right there. Because I can't really believe that I'm standing here right now. Extremely nervous, of course, humble, yes. But seeing all these friendly faces and people I haven't seen in such a long time really helps. I'm not going to be nearly as funny as all the rest, but I have a lot of people that I'd like to thank. And I think Mike, when he called to tell me about this evening and all of the details, said I could talk for as long as I wanted. It's getting really close to my bedtime, so I'll get going. I'd like to start by thanking the Hall of Fame Committee, Dover Tornado Club, Dover Athletic Department, and the Tuscarawas County Senior Center for making this thing happen. And sincere congratulations to all the inductees who have been honored here this evening. When I first learned of this induction, I was both appreciative and uncomfortable to receive such an individual recognition. But then I thought, well, this is my chance to thank the Dover community all at once for everything that's been done for me. And along the lines of the Hall of Fame committee, I want to apologize to Jen Brown. for not accepting her Facebook request. When she tried to friend me to let me know about this induction, but I didn't know who Jen Brown was. I knew who Jen Wilson was. So sorry about that. My family and I moved to Dover in March of my freshman year of high school, so I didn't grow up in Dover, but I feel like I'm from Dover after just spending 3 years here, plus college years. It was just in time for softball season to begin, and Dover was actually the third school district I would attend in just 1 year's time. So had a lot of changes happening in my life personally at that time. I remember riding my bike to the first night of softball practice in pouring rain, going into the girls' restroom and drying myself off, and thinking things have to get better from here. And they sure did. They sure did in my time at Dover. Although I faced much personal adversity over the next few years, the steady support of this community allowed me to grow both as a person and a student athlete. I am truly honored and humbled to be standing up here as part of the Dover softball community. We had so much fun following this last year's team and their tournament run. We tried to come to the state semifinal final game, but we had a remodeling disaster happen at our house, so we couldn't come. And then the state final game, we were in DC visiting our daughter, but we listened on the radio in the car on the way, everywhere we were, so we could just be so proud of the girls and their accomplishments. But truly I owe this great honor to so many others, especially my amazing teammates and their families, our coaches, all of whom I was really nothing without. I always say every successful pitcher needs a defense behind them, a catcher in front of them, an offense to put runs on the board, a game plan in place, and support from the stands. And we really had it all. A special thank you to E.J. King for the countless hours spent crouched behind the plate, pushing me to be my best and keeping it real. When E.J. slapped that glove, I stood at attention. Not only were we a battery as teammates, but also as great friends. To Michelle Myers, who was there for me as a close friend, teammate, and mentor from the beginning. Jamie Moore, who always offered encouragement with a smile as a fellow tornado pitcher. I don't think she's here tonight, but thanks to her for having this available to us. To my good friends and teammates, Tanya Babetsky, Shelley Portman, some of which Mike just mentioned in that article, Tammy Randolph, Steph Sunland, and Jessica Smitley, and to all those in the classes before and after ours who contributed to our success, including Jen over here, Sports Solar Jones, who I was really lucky to be able to play basketball and softball with. To our coaches, John Warner, Ken Mobley, Jim Baxter, and our scorekeeper, Susan Langler, thank you all for your time and effort that you committed to our shared goals. And others, I think it's important to recognize others in the community who really, just with their support, with some different jobs that I worked, different sports that I played, basketball, I want to just thank them too. Coach Tom Andrews, Coach Emmel, thank you for your patience. I didn't realize until recently when talking with Coach Andrews and Rose that until I came to Dover, I played basketball in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, but we were all one team, 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. So I played about 30 seconds a game. And so until I came to Dover and played my sophomore year, I had only played 30 seconds in any one game. So thank you for your patience, Coach Emmel, that first year, and Coach Andrews for trying to teach me to use the backboard. I don't think that ever actually worked, but thank you for trying. Thank you. Yes, not there for decorations. So right. And thank you, Jessa, for being a role model. Jen for being a role model for me too. Thank you to Doug and Holly Clark and Julie, and Doug's here tonight. There he is. And Julie, of course, for always telling me no worries when I would screen those t-shirts upside down at Clark Athletic Supply, which happened far too many times. Sorry, Doug. I think it's been about 35 years. I can admit that now. Thank you to Jeff Willis with Wilshire Golf, Jim Nixon with the Reeves Museum. Really everyone in the community, I feel if he touches your life positively, contributes to your overall success. So I just really just appreciate all of the support. My teammates and I had one primary goal. Although we were successful in earning Dover softball's first conference and district titles, we were not successful in that ultimate goal of winning a state championship. So congratulations. From the bottom of my heart, congratulations to the 2025 Dover softball team and bringing that title home. To my husband John, daughter Sydney, and son Jake, thank you for putting up with my competitive to a fault nature. Thank you to my mom for keeping us in Dover so I could graduate a tornado. Enough moving around. So we were able to stay for 3 years, that was great. Thank you to my dad for unconditional love and support from afar. I know he's looking down tonight and very proud, and I'm sure he would like to be here. Playing softball in Dover was truly a blessing that I cannot overstate, and one which I will never forget and always cherish. Playing softball in college, really my end goal there was just to earn my undergraduate degree, and that's what it was always about for me. I remember, I think I was a junior in high school. There was a basketball hoop outside that I used to practice at, and I thought, I'm going to earn a basketball scholarship. Well, that didn't quite happen. I learned very early on that although Jen and I played a similar position, I was pretty much there to get Jen the ball while she ran circles around me, and I just needed to go down and play some defense on the other end. So, but that college degree was the first in my family, and I owe this community for really that support to make that happen. Soon I will retire from a 30-year career as a registered dietitian, but I will never ever retire from being a Dover tornado. Thank you all.
When I think of Colbert Byram Jr., many descriptors come to mind, but most notably, I'm taken back to Crater Stadium in 1998 in a hotly contested game versus Student. At halftime, our Tornadoes were down 25-7, struggling for a bit of life. After the half, however, our fortunes changed. A renewed group, perhaps a warm halftime speech was involved, but whatever occurred awakened our crowd as we came storming back to win primarily because of one player, Colbert Byram Jr., and his refuse to lose team first focus, rushing for 229 yards and 4 touchdowns, in addition to having 15 tackles and 1 interception in a Dover come from behind 40-33 win. As head coach Dan F. put it, Colbert had an innate ability to make people miss. It was almost like he had a ghost leg. He would show the defense one leg, make them miss, and then take off making moves that just broke down tacklers. He was a special player. Words from teammates used to describe Colbert are unassuming, quiet, determined, and focused. I would add powerful, devoted, and a strong character. Like so many of our other inductees, he was a true winner, as well as one who consistently deferred his success to his teammates. Given that humility, Colbert's high school accomplishments were exceptional, including being the first Dover football player to receive first team All-Ohio honors as both a junior and a senior, and the first Dover player to be selected to the Ohio North-South game and the Big 33 contest in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Having held 12 school rushing and scoring records upon his graduation, he was highly deserving of any accolade he received. A dedicated worker, Colbert was a direct reflection of his coach's work ethic and their expectations. He understood the long-term benefits of 2-a-day practices, morning weightlifting, practice challenges, and detailed game preparation, as laying the groundwork for his life beyond high school athletics. As for his life after high school, he graduated from Kent State University and began working in the IT industry. Currently, he is working for an Akron company in the healthcare industry. Most importantly, he lives his life to benefit others, proving that the young man he was has continued to develop into the professional he is today. Using the exact language that I wrote when his father was inducted in 2022. Colbert is an outstanding role model and gentleman who has earned the respect of the Dover community for his accomplishments and for being the true man he is. It is with great pride that I introduced Colbert Byram Jr. as a 2025 inductee into the Dover Athletic Hall of Fame. Colbert.
It's great to see everyone. Very humbled and honored to be up here tonight. Thank you to all the committees and everyone involved in putting this event on. Also, congratulations to all the other inductees here tonight. What a special evening. Obviously, none of this would have been possible without my dad, who set a great example for me growing up. He made sure I was exposed to a lot of different sports, and that gave me a well-rounded foundation to build on. He spent countless hours practicing with me, driving me to games, coaching our teams, and showing me the kind of effort and training that it takes to be great. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Lisa, for being the referee when Dad and I would get into arguments. Thank you for all of your guidance and support over the years. I would also like to acknowledge my entire family. Some is here with me today, but I've had a lot of support over the years from my family here in Ohio, but also in Georgia and Louisiana. They've provided me support and guidance that continues to this day. We've had some incredible athletes in our family, and I'm just the latest person to represent the Byram, Bell, and Ray family this evening. I would like to thank our coaches for pushing us. They saw how good we could be and tried to ensure that we reached our full potential. The grueling practices Mr. Gunther referenced, the 6 a.m. lifting sessions before school, it was all worth it because it allowed our teams to perform at our best. If you want to accomplish great things, it takes hard work, sacrifice, and usually a collective effort. Of course, I would like to give a special thanks and congratulations to Coach Jiff on an incredible coaching career. He was so strict and intimidating when he coached us. But I heard he eased up a little and became a players coach a few years after we graduated. Whatever his methods were, they worked. I'm personally very grateful that he was our coach and set the tone for the entire football program from the moment he arrived. I would not be here without the amazing teammates I had on the baseball and football fields. Many of us grew up playing minor league and little league baseball together. We also played Pee Wee football. Starting with the Pee Wee football Raiders, Mark Stokey, Zach Daly, and I played on the same football team for 8 years. Back then, I was a quarterback, throwing passes to Mark and handing off to Zach. I have fond and funny memories of Little League and minor league baseball. I remember how everyone was scared of Steve Caravati when he was pitching. He would throw so fast, so hard, he would basically pitch a no-hitter or one-hitter every time he started. And that basically continued until his high school career ended. He would go on to become one of the best players in the state of Ohio during his career. Our baseball practices were very easy compared to football. And we had outstanding coaches and players. Coach Donahue, Tucci, Bircher, and others taught us a lot, and they allowed us to have fun. From Doug Feller, Ben Keffer, Steve Caravati, and many more, Dover baseball has produced some incredible athletes, including former Major League pitcher Percy Garner. Shout out to Percy, who was here earlier. Of course, no respectable running back would forget about the big boys who made it all possible. Those guys do all the dirty work and get no credit or accolades. As talented as our teams were, our line may have been our best position group. The success of most football teams is determined by how good the offensive and defensive lines are, and both of ours were incredible. JT Lauber, John McElwain, Jake Hawk, Paul Yockey, Seth Gintz, Rob Becker, Aaron Feller, Eric Krishner, and Josh Harstein are just some of the names who are responsible for the success of our offense, which includes blocking for me and Zach, but also our quarterbacks, Mark Von Pennell and Jim McFadden. Coach Morris used to always tell us, our running backs, to 4 for 4, meaning when you get the ball, the goal is to get at least 4 yards. I believe Zach and I both averaged over 7 yards a carry our senior year. Finally, I would like to thank everyone who came out tonight for this celebration. It was great to see so many familiar faces. Special thanks to Mrs. Stokey, who put up with us kids hanging out at her house over the years, and providing a place for us to hang out and stay out of trouble. And thank you for all your contributions to Dover Athletics over the years. I'd also like to thank Doug and Holly Clark for their generosity over the years and all of the equipment, clothes, and support they have provided all of us young athletes. We are very lucky to have a close-knit community that really cares and looks out for students and provides avenues and resources that other communities don't or can't provide. Some of you here were teachers or coaches, but all of you here cheered us on and supported us throughout the years. And for that, I cannot be more grateful. Thank you very much.
That, my friends, is an accomplished public speaker. Great job over there. Franny Brogan, the first Dover swimmer ever inducted into our Hall of Fame, has always been a quiet young man, one who has allowed his skills to flourish while seldom calling attention to himself. In competitive swimming, a sport that relies upon individual sacrifice and speed, whether it is an individual or relay event, those participants are racing against the clock far more than most high school sports. Thus, era-to-era comparisons are easily made and pretty much indisputable. The reality is that being a top-notch swimmer requires intense dedication that falls on the individual's shoulders. Success or not depends on what one person does to make himself better year to year. In Franny's case, he paid the price to succeed. A rarity, not only for his successes, but for how he consistently improved. A 4-time performer in the state swimming meet, he made great strides establishing himself as an outstanding athlete. For example, as a sophomore, he swam the 100 breaststroke in 57.77. But as a senior, he had dropped that time to 55.68, placing first in the state meet. His competitiveness in all his events were infectious, as his team ultimately finished as the Division II state runner-up. Equally as important, he and several of his teammates joined forces to win several relay crowns and set several records. As his longtime high school coach, Brenda Worley, described him, Franny was the kind of teammate who made everyone better through his effort, his attitude, and his heart. His dedication, sportsmanship, and unwavering support for his teammates set a standard that inspired others. Talent made him a great swimmer, but kindness, dedication, and hard work made Franny unforgettable, both in and out of the pool. This Hall of Fame honor could not be more fitting. Those words from your coach, Brenda Worley. The bottom line for Franny is this. He earned 11 All-Ohio honors and 3 All-American honors, while also setting 3 meet records in various events, and being an integral leader of 2 district championship teams and a state runner-up team. It is with much appreciation for all he has accomplished and for what he has done as a role model for the Dover swim team that we say thank you this evening and proudly welcome Franny Brody to the Dover High School Athletic Hall of Fame. Mr. Brody.
It's an honor to be the first swimmer inducted into the Dover Athletic Hall of Fame, so thank you. I'll be pretty quick. I would like to thank my Coach Worley and Coach Joe, and also my mom and all of my friends and family who supported me all that time. But I would like to especially thank all of my fellow swimmers and everyone who pushed and competed against me in every morning practice, afternoon practice, dryland workout, in and out of season. It was the constant competing against everyone that I think allowed me to achieve this great honor today. I couldn't have done it. I mean, just the constant competition between everyone pushing so that just making us all better, making every practice count. I couldn't have achieved this without all of my fellow swimmers. And I can't wait to be back here in the future to honor all of them. I'm sure they'll all be accepted too. But thank you.
You know, those swimmers always trying to be a little quicker. My closing remarks tonight are simply stated. We are so fortunate in this community for everything we have. A new high school, excellent athletic facilities, highly respected athletic coaches, and involved and insightful administration, winning programs, respectful kids, and supportive taxpayers and donors. Please don't ever take it for granted. In the final words, always treasure the pride in Dover. Thank you very much.